When Pokemon TCG Live was announced in September 2021, the Pokemon Company said it would be out later that year, and PTCGO would be shut down as a result because they didn't want to split the player base. Well, more than a year later, both games are up and running, and PTCGO has the clear edge when it comes to player count. Naturally, there's been a lot of talk about which game is actually better, but instead of people's boring opinions, I wanted to get a scientific answer to the question which game is better, PTCGO or PTCGL. Think of this as a skills competition. Except I already know the winners, I'm slightly corrupt, and I'm choosing categories where I know a certain game will be embarrassed in. Despite all that, I've narrowed things down to a small number of categories, and each game will go head to head. Which do you think will reign supreme? And which game do you think will be cancelled as a result of winning because the Pokemon Company naively thought they could make a brand new game from scratch instead of just adding a crafting system to their old game that everybody loves? Make your guesses in the comments below. Obviously, this will vary based on your device and your internet connection, but for the first test, I decided to see which game boots up faster. I started the timer, then immediately clicked the icon on my desktop. Even though TCG Live is 10 years younger, it has more wrinkles than PTCGO and takes about a minute to start up from nothing. Then you're greeted by a creepy avatar always pulsing and breathing heavily, and you don't want to know what it's doing with its hands. PTCGO, meanwhile, takes just under 30 seconds to boot up from nothing. You do have to click login after the initial start screen, but even if you fall asleep for 25 seconds, it still opens faster than live. Then you're greeted by the annoying bouncing prize box that never stops unless you click on it. With the most recent update to live, however, my computer now makes a screeching noise for about 15 seconds when it's loading up, so that's fun. What's odd here is that PTCGO has more cards in it as well as more features. So why does TCG Live take longer to start? Well, I know this is me beating off a dead horse, but Live just isn't made properly. They rushed it to be ready for global launch in November 2021, which was a huge miscalculation, and they cut several corners to try and make that happen, resulting in a game that takes a minute to open. Yeah, this one goes to PTCGO. For new players, the next thing you'll experience is the tutorial and resulting free decks. I'm not even gonna tease you, TCG Live takes a decisive victory in these categories. The mandatory tutorial in PTCGO takes 15 minutes, and the only deck you get at the end is Mental Might, a horrible theme deck from like 7 years ago. TCG Live, meanwhile, has a fully skippable tutorial. Once you do that, you receive 8 free decks, as well as the current free deck on the Battle Pass. All these free decks are competitive in their own way, but the lack of an introductory format in Live really hurts the experience for new players. At least in PTCGO, you can mess around in theme, learn the ins and outs of the games, and just have fun without being overwhelmed. With Live, you might face me in your first battle and wonder how that's even possible. For instance, in the stream before writing this, I battled against someone with a 0 ranking. PTCGO does a much better job at matching you with people in your skill level. Regardless, Live's free decks and optional tutorial give it the clear edge here. Daily login rewards isn't even a contest, mainly because Live doesn't have them. PTCGO gives you something each day you log in, with every 5th day granting you a free random standard pack. TCG Live gives you nothing each day you log in, making you wonder if it's even worth logging in at all. What I will mention here is the ranked ladder rewards in Live. At the end of each month, not calendar month, it's their made up months, they give you rewards based on your ranking so long as you played 5 ranked games. The average player will receive 2 packs from the most recent set, a Pokemon V, as well as 100 each of coins, credits, and crystals. That's enough credits to craft any one uncommon card, and enough crystals to afford half of a pack in the shop. Yeah, PTCGO still wins here even when you factor in the ladder rewards, assuming you log into PTCGO regularly. Another no contest, PTCGO blows TCG Live out of the water when it comes to daily win bonuses. For your first 11 wins each day in PTCGO, you're given a good reward. If you manage to get all 11 wins, you'll receive 5 mystery boxes, 160 tokens, and 1 tournament ticket for that day. If you get 11 wins on PTCGL, well, it's not exactly clear what your rewards are on the surface. You get coins based on how many prize cards are taken in the battle, so if you win enough times, you can get enough to buy a kilt after about a week. Yes, coins in TCG Live are solely for cosmetics and mostly useless, though they did recently add a Sweet Ghastly outfit. Unfortunately, you don't get credits or crystals for simply winning games in Live, and those are the 2 currencies you actually want. PTCGO embarrasses Live here. Daily quests are far more complicated on PTCGO than they need to be. Essentially, by completing daily quests in PTCGO, you level up each type. Raise your level high enough and you can have 2 daily quests active at a time, then a maximum of 3 at a time. By completing these type-specific quests, you receive tokens or a free pack. The higher your trainer level, the better the rewards. On TCG Live, daily quests are far simpler. There's 2 of them. The first awards 50 coins and 300 experience, while the second awards 60 credits and 500 experience. Before the October update in Live, we were only given 40 crystals per day. While they have upped it to 60 now, it still isn't enough. A single pack costs 200 crystals in Live, so even with the boost, you have to wait 4 days before you can afford it. Despite how confusing it may seem on the surface, PTCGO's daily quests surpass that of TCG Live's. If Live upped the amount of crystals and gave us credits instead of coins, then maybe it would be on the same level. As it is now, PTCGO still wins. What I will add is that TCG Live has profile rewards. There's no way to actually view what these rewards are in-game, they just pop up every time you level up your profile. Ultimately though, they're disappointing and don't swing this category in Live's favor. In my experience, you receive coins a lot more often than credits or crystals, and the amount is disappointing regardless of the currency. At first glance, the Live Battle Pass versus PTCGO ladder category is misleading. While you might look at how much the Battle Pass on TCG Live offers and automatically declare it the winner, you have to go deeper. The Battle Pass on Live typically lasts 3 months, it only resets when a new major set releases. But on PTCGO, the ladder refreshes every 3 weeks. Essentially, 1 TCG Live Battle Pass equals 4 PTCGO ladders, so once you factor that in, the results are much closer. Now, I know it's a little difficult to truly quantify what the Battle Pass offers since the Live developers seem to love changing it with every set. To keep it fair though, I'll just go based off the Lost Origin Battle Pass, and I'll even include the contents of the Premium Battle Pass, which costs 600 crystals to unlock. In total, this is what you'll get from the Lost Origin Battle Pass on Live, keeping in mind that I suck at math. The highlights are the Zoroark V-Star deck that only needs a few changes to be fully competitive, the Arceus V-Star deck that is nowhere near competitive, 73 Lost Origin packs, and 2 God packs that have 9 cards instead of the usual 5, and 3 of them are guaranteed to be ultra rares. And this is what you'll get from 4 Versus ladders on PTCGO. The highlights here are the 4,500 tokens, which can be exchanged for 22 packs, 44 packs from the current most recent set, 68 tournament tickets which can be used to enter pack tournaments, and 4 rare holo chests that will all result in disappointment for you. Overall it's close, but I have to give the win to TCG Live. The free decks Live offers really tip the scales, and it doesn't hurt that you receive 73 packs of the most recent set. PTCGO is no slouch though, both are great, but Live has an edge here. When Pokemon TCG Live was birthed into the world earlier this year, kicking and screaming, it had 3 game modes: Standard, Ranked, Standard Casual, and half of an expanded format. 8 months later, TCG Live has the same 3 game modes. Yeah, it hasn't exactly been an embarrassment of riches over here in Live land. Comparing this to PTCGO, it's not even close. Let me take a deep breath here. PTCGO has Theme, Standard, Expanded, Legacy, Theme Tournaments, Standard Tournaments, and Expanded Tournaments. Theme is far and away the most welcoming place to new players in either game. Plus, there's in-game chat in PTCGO and trading, though depending on how you look at it, those might be negatives. Next up, how long does it take to find a game? As we've established, the game modes in PTCGO versus PTCGL aren't one-to-one, but I'll do my best to make it fair. And for those of you who know how terrible Live's matchmaking gets after a week of no maintenance, don't worry. I conducted this test when Live was in its happy time. Which means if it takes forever, that's just because no one's actually playing. But given that the combined populations of all beta countries is over 400 million or something, there's no way people won't want to play this brand new game from the Pokemon Company, right? To kick things off, we have Standard, Ranked, and Live versus Standard in PTCGO. If you're a competitive player in either game, this is where you'll be spending the majority of your time. Honestly, there's not much to report here. PTCGO is almost instantaneous, which comes as no shock. TCG Live is also super quick, though even when it's working, you may encounter the infinite matchmaking bug and have to go back out and retry. So while it's a virtual tie here in terms of time, PTCGO is far more consistent. If I were to carry out this test once per day for a full month, PTCGO would never waver, while Live would have moments where matchmaking breaks and I have to spend 15 minutes to find a match. But I'll be kind and call this a draw. Live needs the break for what's coming up. Next up, I decided to pit Theme on PTCGO versus Standard Casual on Live. It seemed like the fairest comparison. For the first 6 months or so of Live, no one was playing Casual. But now that Europe has been added to the beta, I've seen more people test out the Casual format. Unsurprisingly, Theme finds a match almost instantaneously. And this was with my new PTCGO account, which has a low ranking. As a result, I matched up with someone using Mental Might. Regardless, PTCGO Theme still sees a ton of players because it's the perfect beginner format. What about Standard Casual and Live? Like I said, with more players showing up, you can regularly find a game. So while you may have to wait 10 seconds to a minute, it's no longer a sunk format with 0 players at all. What you may have noticed is that the setup phase in PTCGO is much faster. On PTCGO, the timer begins to count down right at the start, punishing players who do nothing. On Live, the timer doesn't count down until the prize cards have been laid down, so that's not great. And here's where the massacre begins. The developers of TCG Live decided to launch the beta with a neutered expanded mode, instead of just focusing all of their attention to make Standard a perfect format. With Live's expanded, you can only use cards from Sun and Moon in Sword and Shield. X and Y and Black and White cards aren't currently supported. Because of that, no one plays it. Well, I went into expanded and began the never-ending timer. Live only has 3 game modes, so you'd think people would be spread out across all of them, right? Nope. I haven't mentioned PTCGO's expanded up to this point because it's so quick. Yes, there can be times where it takes 10 to 20 seconds, but it's still fast. Expanded has seen a drop-off in players over the last year, though. It's mostly due to the fact that the meta hasn't changed much, but also because expanded tournaments aren't happening in real life. And as a result, there's been no recent bans. Even with all that, you can find a game relatively quickly. Back on Live, after 2 minutes, I finally found a game. I was so shocked I nearly fell out of my seat. Unfortunately, it was against someone playing a standard deck, so they likely misclicked and chose the wrong format. So, to see if it was a fluke, I waited a few minutes and tried again. Well, it was definitely a fluke. I let the timer reach 5 minutes on the second try before giving up. So unless you get really lucky and a fellow crazy person decides to try expand at the same time as you, you will never actually find a game in expanded on TCG Live. After tabulating all the results, PTCGO wins this category as expected because people actually want to play it. Now, it's time to test out how quickly each game moves in an actual battle. Prior to the October update in TCG Live, gameplay moved at a snail's pace. Wait, is Macargo the only snail Pokemon? Okay, I looked it up after having this thought, and when I binged snail Pokemon, Omanite, Shellos, Shelmet, Sliggoo, and some Pokemon knockoffs all appeared before Macargo. Anyways, instead of rewriting the code in Live and fixing all of the underlying issues, the developers of PTCGL just hit the fast forward button on gameplay. Now it's 3 to 4 times faster than it was, moving so fast you can barely tell what's going on. And without a game log, if you don't have every card committed to memory, well, sucks to be you. But who cares about basic features missing from a card game? I'm here to compare battle speed. And for better or worse, I think overall TCG Live is faster than PTCGO now. It's not a clear victory or anything though. PTCGO has always moved fairly quickly, only slowing down to allow you to read cards. Live just took some catnip and runs like the Flash. I should also apologize for the footage you've been watching. Making a side-by-side comparison was never going to look pretty. It was either this or constantly switching screens, and unlike TCG Live, I don't want to give you a seizure. While I gave TCG Live the win here, they both have their own pros and cons. And a lot of PTCGO slowing down does have to do with allowing players to actually see the cards. And if you miss them, the game log can always catch you up. Honestly, the game log is such an important feature for newer players that I'm baffled as to why it was removed from Live. So, although Live wins the war, PTCGO wins the battle of having a game log. One area where PTCGO has a clear advantage in terms of game speed is taking your final prize cards. On PTCGO, if you've just taken the game-winning KO, your prize cards are automatically claimed and the game ends. With TCG Live, it forces you to manually take the final prize cards. So it adds another layer of annoyance when your opponent clicks their final attack knowing they've won, disappears for 30 seconds because they thought the game was over, and then they come back and realize Live isn't smart enough to do something so basic. The best thing about TCG Live is crafting new cards. On PTCGO, if you want a new card, you have to go into trades, wait 10 minutes for it to load, and hope someone is offering the card you need. Otherwise, you have to post a trade and hope someone somewhere in the world accepts it. In Live, you just craft the card you want. It's that simple. Well, it's not that simple. You still need the necessary credits to craft the cards, but if you followed my advice and redeemed 400 celebrations codes, you should have around 200,000 credits to spend. And if you migrated a playset of every celebrations cards from PTCGO, you'll have even more. I did a comparison in a previous video about how much it costs to buy one V-Star in each game, and I'll do it again here, this time with Giratina V-Star. On PTCGO, one Giratina V-Star costs 17 Lost Origin packs. At the time of making this video, Lost Origin packs were around 30 cents each from online stores, meaning one Giratina costs $5. Want a full playset is $20. On TCG Live, every V-Star costs 1,025 credits. I don't know why it's not 1,000, I don't know why they added the extra 25, just don't ask. But it doesn't matter which V-Star it is. Every single one is the same price and never fluctuates, unlike PTCGO where prices change based on playability. To elaborate on using celebrations to farm credits, it's because on average, one celebrations pack will grant you over 600 credits. So if you open 2 celebrations packs, you can afford one Giratina V-Star. Open 8 celebrations and you have a playset. With celebration packs priced around 15 cents each right now, 1 Giratina is 30 cents and 4 Giratina is $1.20. Definitely much cheaper than PTCGO's 20 bucks. If you're brand new to TCG Live and don't have any cards from celebrations, you will have to open more packs. RNG does play a huge part in factoring how many credits a new player can earn from celebrations, but I've estimated that a new player opening the full 400 celebrations packs will have roughly 200,000 credits. With each set requiring around 30,000 to 40,000 credits for all of the good cards, you should be set for a year. Obviously, PTCGO has the advantage in that you can play in-game tournaments to win tradable packs, and you can trade your cards to change decks whenever you want. While Live doesn't give you any sort of option to trade in cards. Once the credits are spent, they're gone. Despite that, I'll have to give this category to TCG Live. If you're willing to spend the money, your life will get so much easier playing Live when it comes to getting new cards. Just ignore everything else wrong with the game. A big part of the Pokemon TCG experience is building your own decks. And this is yet another category where a game that came out in the same year as Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 wins, beating a game that came out in the same year as Fantastic Beasts 3. First up, choosing your format. When you go to build a deck in PTCGO, you're presented with all the different options including Standard, Expanded, and Legacy. In TCG Live, Standard is the default because they know nobody wants to touch Expanded. If you do want to create an Expanded deck, you have to go Home, click Casual, then click Expanded, then go to Decks. A brand new option appears in the deck builder at the top left, letting you switch formats. Why that isn't there by default, I have no idea. For the overall aesthetic, PTCGO is better. It's cleaner, more colorful, everything is right in front of your face, evolutions connect to each other, and best of all, you can expand the deck list to full screen at any point. In TCG Live, it's very bland, and your list is squished to the side. You can't embiggen it, and a major offense is that it just chucks in evolutions with no regard to how they connect. Finally, the filters. PTCGO's filters are all right in front of you and easy to decipher. You can also filter by rarity, retreat cost, and attack cost. In TCG Live, you have to scroll past useless options like format, weakness, and resistance to get to useful ones like attributes and set. But as you'll notice, that's it. While Live also includes weakness and resistance and PTCGO doesn't, those aren't nearly as useful as attack cost or retreat cost. I know I already spoiled it, but PTCGO is the better game when it comes to deck building, which shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who's watched the full video up to this point, but will be a shock to anyone who skipped to this point and thought the successor to PTCGO would be improved. Something else I'll include in this category is a collection viewer. PTCGO has one, TCG Live doesn't. I don't know why either. If you want to see all the cards you currently own in Live, you have to go into the deck builder. A few months ago, I learned to just stop questioning all of the baffling decisions in Live because doing so gave me daily headaches. Regardless of my brain pain, PTCGO wins the collection viewer category by actually having one. Comparing the free-to-play experience in both games should honestly be its own video, so I'm going to be lazy and just go with my opinion over true hard facts. What I've been saying to people for months is that Live is better at the start, giving you 9 free standard decks to kickstart your collection. But after that point, the in-game rewards slow down to a trickle, and building something brand new instead of improving on those free archetypes takes far too long. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. TCG Live is transparent with the fact it doesn't include any microtransactions. This means players have to go to third-party code sites to get their hands on celebrations packs. The Pokemon Company isn't profiting off of this. So why are the in-game rewards so horrible? It takes months to be able to afford good cards in Live, yet there's no incentive for the Pokemon Company to bottleneck its players. If Live is meant to be an advertisement for the physical card game, wouldn't it make more sense to be overly generous with rewards? You don't want people to quit your game because of the grind, but with Live that's exactly what's happening. Moving on, while PTCGO starts off slow, if you use your tokens to buy the right packs and use your tournament tickets to get a lot of tradable packs, 6 months down the road you'll likely be in a much better position than a Live player. You also have the option of profit trading in PTCGO, which allows you to earn free packs by exploiting people on the trade market. So I'm going to call this one a draw. Neither is particularly great in the free-to-play category. Die-hard PTCGO players will say it wins, while TCG Live players will say the free decks more than make up for its problems. Regardless, I can't really recommend a new player start either game without investing in some packs, and with TCG Live your money can go further if you buy celebrations. Then again, packs on PTCGO are used to acquire cards you can trade away when you're sick of that deck. You know what, the more I talked about the free-to-play prospects in both games, the more I realize how much work would go into an accurate comparison. So, in my lazy opinion, this one's a draw. Because I don't want this video to be 3 hours long, I'm not showing a bunch of the miscellaneous categories. Sort of like how awards shows hand trophies out before the thing actually begins. Basically the stuff no one cares about. I'll do a rapid fire showing of some of the more interesting things right now, beginning with the minor categories where PTCGO wins. A major complaint TCG Live has always had is the lifelessness, not just with the avatars but the game itself. Nothing speaks more to this than when you use a V-Star power or GX attack. On PTCGO, the marker flips in the air and slams back down, landing face down. On TCG Live, you get a flashing yellow light and a line goes through it. Yeah, PTCGO wins. PTCGO's single player experience isn't good, but at least it has one, so it wins by default. The trainer challenge is great for new players to mess around and progress, but it's super bare bones. TCG Live, meanwhile, doesn't have any single player content aside from AI battles against a computer that tries to lose. You can tell who's going first in PTCGO. Yes, Live is a card game that doesn't tell you who goes first. If you miss the coin flip, there's no way to tell if you're going first or second during the setup phase on Live. It's yet another baffling decision that makes me wonder if the developers of Live ever even played PTCGO. Matchmaking works. PTCGO rarely undergoes maintenance or receives an update outside of a brand new set. TCG Live requires 8 hours of maintenance every single week just to maintain basic functionality, and even then it breaks during the last couple days. While the developers are testing fixes to matchmaking as I'm writing this, PTCGO works without even trying. After every battle in PTCGO, you're given a screen with a lot of detailed information. Live doesn't really do that. Plus, PTCGO gives you the chance to see your opponent's deck list. Again, Live doesn't do that. As I've covered in a previous video, PTCGO allows you to hover over a specific card on the battlefield like a tool or energy and the card will embiggen. On Live, you can't do that. But it goes deeper. PTCGO's field blower screen is very easy to use. Live's is an absolute mess that makes me hate myself whenever I use Lost Vacuum or Tool Scrapper. Probably the most important category, which game has the better feet and toes? Well, considering the fact that there's no option to go completely barefoot in TCG Live, I've tried, PTCGO takes the win. And sure, I guess PTCGO also wins the category of not having creepy avatars that suck out your soul, but the toes are far more important. Now, the categories where Live wins. The math. Pokemon TCG Live does the math for you, PTCGO doesn't. So if you're playing something like Mad Party, Live will tell you exactly how much damage the attack will do after factoring all of the effects on the field. This is one of my favorite things about Live, and it makes going back to PTCGO tougher because I have to think again. You can buy special sets and bundles in the in-game shop on Pokemon TCG Live. Aside from the new main sets, PTCGO hasn't added anything new to its shop since Theme Decks ended with Vivid Voltage. On TCG Live, not only can you buy Celebrations packs, but new collection boxes, like Zeraora V-Star and VMAX, and the Deoxys V-Star and VMAX collections are available. The mobile experience. While TCG Live is portrait mode only, even on iPad, and it causes iPhones to overheat and wrecks their battery, at least it's available natively for iPhone and Android. You can play PTCGO on iPad and Android, but Live I think wins based on availability. Then again, PTCGO has a 4.6 rating on the App Store versus Live's 2.3. Whatever, Live wins, it needs the help. Because it's becoming a bit of a blowout, I'll give the nod to code redemption and pack opening to TCG Live. They aren't perfect in either game. For instance, you can only input a maximum of 10 codes at a time. TCG Live also likes to eat your codes and give you nothing. But the reason Live wins is because you can skip the forced pack opening screen and just skip to the end and see a summary. PTCGO requires you to watch the pack opening animation every single time. Opening a pack on PTCGO is a much more enjoyable experience though, as is the fact that you can hit enter on PTCGO when typing in a code as opposed to having to use the mouse on Live to click. While Live is horrible when it comes to making pack opening fun, the skip button makes all the difference. And there we go. For my final verdict, I have to give the win to PTCGO. It's pathetic that a game more than 10 years old is better than a game released this year, especially when you consider PTCGO was one of the first online card games, while Live is competing with better card games like Legends of Runeterra, Magic Arena, Hearthstone, Eternal, Marvel Snap, and Yu-Gi-Oh! I could have included several more categories to compare the two, but this video is long enough as it is. If you have any thoughts about the PTCGO versus PTCGL debate, leave them in the comments. And if you're wondering when Live will be releasing, the Pokemon Company is aiming to get the beta out globally by the end of 2022. And we know PTCGO will still exist until March 2023, which means Live will still be in beta until at least March 2023. At the very least, cherish PTCGO while you still have it, because before you know it, Live will be the only option.